In the high-tech field, there's a notion called normal accident. It means the kind of accident that is going to take place unpredictably in any complicated system. Like anyone who owns a computer knows about normal accidents. Every once in a while, the thing just crashes for some unexplained reason. And when you get to much more complex systems, of course that's going to happen.
With all our technology, we know bloody well that we cannot be assured absolutely 100% that our bombs, so-called think bombs, smart bombs, are hitting the targets. We know from Afghanistan and Iraq alone in the last few years that that's a fallacy.
You are hitting civilian people. You are not hitting the Iraqi bases. What you are doing is wrong.
How much worse would the probability of hitting the wrong target or hitting ourselves from outer space would be? We have no way of calculating that. It's not possible. At least one weapon could go awry and land in Iowa or New York City or God knows where, you know. That's a reality. And if we don't accept that, well, we're just whistling in the dark. And we're going to be victims of our own technology.
The rest of the world understands that the U.S. is planning to militarize space, of course. So there have been efforts to renew and extend the Outer Space Treaty. It says weapons of mass destruction can't be in space. It doesn't say other things. And there have been attempts to renew it, just to affirm it, and to strengthen it. The U.S. blocks it every year.
It is 160 to 1, 170 to 1. The United States is the only nation actually voting against this. We're isolated on this issue.
It would be nice to think that space weaponization is prevented not because there's a huge outcry against it, although that would be an interesting prospect too, but because no one, including our own nation, has the money to spend on this anymore. But in an era when the United States still maintains a $500 billion military budget every year, I don't think we can count on that happening.
It's really insane. We are willing to spend hundreds of billions of dollars over the years to develop space control means that a treaty would take care of, would make unnecessary. If we had the will to negotiate such a treaty, if we took the lead, we could get one. It wouldn't be easy. It would be a very difficult thing to do, but it could be done.
How can a treaty ban all anti-satellite weaponry? A ground-based laser, a conventional missile, and most orbiting systems can be used to demolish satellites. Could a treaty guarantee that kill vehicles would only target missiles, not satellites or Earth-bound objects? Opponents of a new treaty argue that such promises are untenable, and too late.
Weaponization of space has happened a long time ago. This idea that it's a pristine environment, that if only we stop where we are right now, all will be well, is simply nonsense. And it's even more foolish to think that somehow we can stuff this genie into a bottle.
We do indeed need a United Nations treaty. This is not enough. This is only step one. Step two says, okay, space has been militarized. There are military networks in space. Many of them, like GPS, are useful. But we should work on international treaties to make those military space networks used for multilateral purposes. Do I think that's going to happen? I'm very doubtful, but I have to keep hoping and believing that there is a prospect for that.
I will cut tens of billions of dollars in wasteful spending. I will cut investments in unproven missile defense systems. I will not weaponize space.
Those fearing the weaponization of space could find hope in Barack Obama's election. As soon as he took office, the White House announced it would be seeking a worldwide ban on weapons that interfere with military and commercial satellites. But it proved tough to change decades of entrenched military policy to weaponize space. Obama's 2010 defense budget requested close to $1 billion that was applicable to space warfare systems. It included a new program called Offensive Counterspace, which the Pentagon defined as offensive measures to disrupt, deny, degrade, or destroy any adversary's space capabilities.
History suggests that nations do not voluntarily disarm. They disarm because they're defeated, or they make small adjustments in the way they buy and build and deploy their weapons. But no superpower says, you know, it would be better if we were weaker. I don't recall that ever happening.
It's hard to obtain space superiority without attacking, so I'm afraid that if we want space superiority, we're going to have to attack enemy's assets, which I don't know if you know much about orbital mechanics, but if you created debris up in space, that would just get in the way for you as well, and it kind of start a chain reaction, and pretty soon you just have a cloud of debris surrounding Earth.
About 600,000 fragments rush through space, at 10 times the velocity of a rifle bullet.
All of these objects are traveling at 14,000 miles an hour. So even an object the size of a pea traveling at that speed has more force than a cannonball.
Right now, the problem with space junk is so high that NASA is worried that if there is never another launch of anything into space, because every launch creates a little bit of debris, in 50 years' time, certain orbits will be so polluted that nobody can operate there, because the stuff that's already up there will start breaking up and creating more and more clutter.
A satellite's destruction unleashes a storm cloud of debris that fouls the space around our planet and threatens anything in orbit.
The point really is creation of debris in this manner a good idea or a bad idea? And clearly it is a very bad idea, because there's no way to go up and clean that up.
The more times you go into space and you begin to practice destroying other satellites, you create so much space junk that you literally create the very likely possibility that at some point in time you will not be able to get a rocket off the planet Earth, because it'll be like a minefield around the planet, and you won't be able to escape the minefield with that rocket because it would be destroyed by all the space junk there. So we've got to begin to look at space as an environment.
We have several $100 billion of investment in the peaceful uses of outer space. I'm talking about weather satellites, positioning satellites, scientific satellites. The entire world communication network is all satellite-oriented. All this incredible investment from the United States and from the European Union and Canada and other countries like this, all this is completely at jeopardy if we start putting weapons in outer space.
How would our world change if we lost the use of satellites? Day 1, 6:15 a.m. Communication satellites hovering over the Americas fall mute. Over a swath of the globe, GPS coverage collapses. Atomic clocks on GPS satellites can't transmit universal standard time. The synchronization of massive infrastructures snaps. 350 million cell phones are disabled. Hundreds of millions of internet connections vanish. Around the world, card payments and bank accounts freeze. Billions of dollars are sucked from industries and businesses, triggering a financial crash. News services are crippled. City streets reliant on GPS for traffic management are in chaos. Electrical grids lose synchronization. Wide zones of continents are blinded by blackouts. Coast guards are deaf to ships' distress calls. Dozens of aircraft are missing. Air traffic controllers are fighting panic. Worldwide, flights are grounded or called back. By midnight, there's been a cascade of traffic, train, boat, and aircraft accidents. So far, the world has avoided such a catastrophe. But a space war would kill satellites and blast tons of wreckage into orbit. The system we rely on would shatter and be impossible to restore.
The time is 6:25, and this is a special as part of the Conference on World Affairs. We're discussing the militarization of space.
There is a point in time that may be rapidly closing where the United States could dominate space to such a point where there would be no arms race.
Frankly, I don't think it's doable. I think the march of technology will mean that even if we get a lead on other nations in attempting to do that, that sooner or later we will again be challenged.
It's kind of like what happened after World War II. We had the atomic bomb. Nobody else had the atomic bomb. We thought we had a big exclusive, and without atomic weaponry, we would be able to dominate the Earth. It didn't last very long. The Soviets had an atomic bomb. The Chinese had an atomic. Likewise in space, to think that we can move up there with weaponry and be alone to be the king on the throne of space, it's a tragic miscalculation.
Tout le monde trouve que l'idée de faire de l'armement de l'espace est une idée dangereuse à terme qui ne pourra qu'inciter d'autres pays à leur tour à participer à cet armement spatial.
India has been discussing whether or not it needs to build its own anti-satellite weapons. You can be sure if India does it, Pakistan will be thinking about it in a heartbeat as well. Israel has also been discussing this issue. So what you see now is the potential for a domino effect.
Few nations will willingly submit to U.S. supremacy in space. Some will try to topple the U.S. Others scramble for a foothold. Enemies will vie in leaping ahead. Stable and unstable nations will be dragged into the race. The European Union opposes the weaponization of space. But for how long?
Si les Américains continuent de placer des armes, non plus des satellites militaires, mais des armes dans l'espace, il va peut-être falloir qu'on y réfléchisse et qu'on envisage au moins les moyens de se défendre ou de faire face, alors on ne dit pas à la menace américaine, mais à l'éventuelle course aux armements qui pourrait en découler.
Russia would plunge into the contest. It has committed to destroying any weapon.